Good afternoon and welcome to the 249th episode of the Georgia Prep Sports Drive for the GHSA State Title. Today we're going to go back to our typical format. We're going to have two guests to talk about the upcoming football season that actually kicks off 5 weeks from today with the Corky Kell. It's going to be Bobby Rhoades. He just took over the head coaching job at Georgia Military Prep. And then we're going to talk to Cook head coach Byron Slack. He had a great debut season there last year. He's back for year 2. He'll be joining us in the second segment. We'll also talk about some of the latest news kind of happening in the state as we get ready for, mid-July. And then we'll talk about Friday's show. We're going to have Terrence Edwards on to talk about the Alumni Basketball League. But let's go ahead and get started with Coach Rhoades right now. Hey, Coach, thanks for coming on.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about your background before you ended up at Georgia Military Prep. It looks like you were at Pepperell at your latest stop. You've also been in Alabama, kind of all over. But did you have your sons playing at Pepperell?
Yeah, both of my sons went through at Pepperell. My first year there, my oldest son was a sophomore. My youngest son completed his senior year this past year. So both of my boys went through Pepperell, and my youngest graduated this past spring. They're both playing in college. My oldest is at Sacred Heart University and FCS school up in Connecticut, and my youngest is at Delta State University in Gulf South over in Mississippi.
Okay, yeah, I knew one of them went up north. So, yeah, Sacred Heart and Delta State. And so you were the offensive coordinator there. Were they both offensive guys?
Yeah, they were both wide receivers, and that's what they're playing. They played both sides of the ball, but they're both playing receiver in college, which is an amazing feat when you consider how slow their father is.
Yeah, well, obviously you come from an extensive football background, so talk about your playing days. I think your dad was a coach as well, and kind of what position you were playing and how that sparked your love for the game.
Well, I grew up a coach's kid, and I've been sitting in film rooms and been in locker rooms since I could walk. And as I came up, I was a tight end, but I was never very fast, as I kind of alluded to earlier. I was built like a receiver and ran like a lineman, but I was a pretty good catcher in baseball, and I actually played college baseball. And my last year, I was back home in the fall. I only needed one class to graduate, and I was working with my dad, who was the head coach at Pelham High School outside of Birmingham, when Tyler Watts was coming through, and they had a pretty good run going, and it kind of reignited my love for the game of football. And when I graduated, I came back and worked with him again before I started grad school, and got a job as a graduate assistant at Delta State for Steve Campbell in 1999, and I fell in love with coaching football. It had always been something I loved, and I'd take a little bit of a break from it when I was playing college baseball, but working back again at the high school level, and then when I was a graduate assistant for Steve Campbell, it just really kind of springboarded my career moving forward.
And then, was the move pretty convenient for you going from Pepperell to the current job, which I believe is in Baldwin, Georgia?
Yeah, in Baldwin County in Milledgeville. We're right on the same campus. We share everything with the junior college. With my boys gone, I thought it was a good time. I missed being a head coach and had a desire to do that again. And this opportunity at Georgia Military came up, and it's very unique. I'd always been intrigued about what the culture of a military school was like, and I came down here and interviewed and just instantly fell in love with the place. We have facilities that are as good as anywhere in the state at any level. We have great resources. The administration here is just absolutely unbelievable. Colonel Amy Lee, who is our new principal, Andrew Gradecki, who is our athletic director, are just phenomenal administrators. They make my job incredibly easy, and have really worked hard to help us in any way they can. So I got around the kids. These kids work incredibly hard. if you want your kids challenged academically and athletically to prepare them for the next step, there's not a better place in the state of Georgia than Georgia Military. We're going to coach them and develop them as well as anybody, and our academics are as strong as anywhere in the state. I was looking at AP scores for our student body and was just blown away. Our fine arts program, my daughter, who will be a sophomore at Georgia Military, she's the artist in the family, and those programs here are as good as anywhere in the state. So to be in a place where excellence is pushed in everything. And, you know, when I came on my interview, I watched a middle school play, and it was probably the best play I've ever seen. I mean, it was unreal, and I told myself, if this is the level of excellence that this place produces, then I want to be a part of that.
Oh yeah, for sure. How you said it was unique? It obviously is just the fact that you guys board the students. You got the shared campus, but in terms of the off-season schedule, is it different from kind of the previous stints you have when you guys start
The
spring?
off-season, yeah, the off-season, I got here, March 1st was my first day. And there was a lot of things that had to, the culture of the weight room, we had to kind of shift and kind of readjust how that is. And every student in the high school has their ROTC students. So I had to devise a schedule in the weight room where I don't see them every day. So I had, you know, we have to keep that balance. And the academics here, I mean, they have to make sure they handle those things. Their obligations before and after school that come first. And that's one of the great things about here is that these kids get such a strong education. Just learning the ropes of how the day moves here took a little bit of adjustment. We didn't do spring ball. I have only one coach is returning from last year. I have a brand new staff. Two of my full-time coaches are new teachers that were coming from other places, and they didn't get here till June. So we didn't do spring practice. Being a small school, we had kids in the state baseball playoffs, running at the state track meet. We had kids that were on our soccer team that made it all the way to the state finals. So we did our 4-on-1 stuff. We got our work done in the weight room, spent a lot of time working on trying to develop our speed potential. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there. That was the focus of our off season, and then we got into the normal summer stuff back the first week of June.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So you talked about the size of the school. I know a lot of football coaches, they try to hold everyone to the same standard, but I feel like at Georgia Military Prep, no one's going under the radar. Everyone's held accountable. But what have you just seen from the rest of the campus and school, just the role that football fits into just the overall culture and what the school's about?
Well, I think it just kind of fits in with all of our athletic programs. I mean, the things that make football great is that it demands discipline, it demands accountability, it demands teamwork, it forces you to be at your best, and that fits right in with what Georgia Military is about. I mean, we preach duty, honor, country, and those are core values of most high school programs around here. And I mean, you have a duty to your teammates, you have a duty to your regiment, you have a duty to this school, and I think football plays right into that. The discipline, the hard work, the work ethic, those are all things that are core values of this school, and I think football promotes all those things.
Yeah, and if you look at the alumni list, I mean, you guys have had governors, state reps, tons of NFL talent, professionals, judges, all sorts of people come through there. So with this current group of kids, where do you see kind of what their goal, what their future prospects are looking like, and how are you going to help them kind of achieve that, just being a first-year coach there?
Well, we've got a few seniors that I definitely think have the capability to play at the next level. We've got a couple that already have some offers. I think I'm in a great place to help these kids get to the next level because I've been on all sides of the recruiting spectrum. I've been a college coach, I've been a high school coach, but probably as important as anything, I've been a parent. And I've gone through the recruiting process now twice with both of my sons. And I think that really helps me guide these kids and their parents as they go through this journey. And I think from a development standpoint, we're going to develop kids here as well as any school in the state of Georgia. That these kids are going to be prepared from the caliber of ball that they play, their fundamentals, their work ethic, the things that we're going to teach them in the weight room and in their speed training. They're going to be well prepared the first day they step on a college campus, if that's something that they're able to do. I've had a chance to work with a lot of great people that I've learned a lot of great football from. When I first started as a college coach, Debo Sweeney helped me a ton at learning how to be a good wide receiver coach. I worked with a lot of great coaches at the high school level, got to know people like Chris Yeager, who's the head coach of Mountain Brook High School in Birmingham. Mark Hudspeth is down at Gulf Shores in Alabama with Kenny Edenfield. There are people that I've crossed paths with my journey that have really helped me. And then just people that I've known at the college level. If kids want that opportunity, they're going to get seen here. And one thing that's unique about our situation is our locker room is right next to the junior colleges. Every college coach that comes in to evaluate talent at the junior college, all they got to do is take a few more steps down the hall and come look at our kids. We practice side by side with the junior college. And so I've never been a place where kids have more opportunity to be seen than right here.
That's really exciting. And you were talking about your staff. Some of them came on board June. That was really recent, last month. So walk us through what the rest of the off season's going to look like. If you have any upcoming scrimmage, when you guys are going to be putting the pads on, and just what your, I guess, kind of overarching plan is to just evaluate and get you guys ready to roll.
We've got a 7-on-7 tomorrow at Putnam County. We've had a few of those in a padded camp. We've got a padded camp the end of next week. And, after one of these days last month, I asked our kids, I said, raise your hand if you played a lot of meaningful snaps. I'm not talking about late in the game when the outcome was decided, you went in, or somebody's, you had to give somebody a breather for a play, that you played significant snaps. Probably 5 or 6 kids raised their hand. I mean, we're really young. We've got a lot of freshmen and sophomores. We have some very, very talented older kids, but we're going to rely a lot on some freshmen and sophomores. So the big thing right now is we're teaching. We are teaching the fundamentals of how to do things and how to do not just the right assignments, but how to go about your business. We had to address that this morning, that you've got to pay attention to detail. Failure to pay attention to detail gets you beat. And sometimes you're going to get beat because the other team just may be a little bit better than you. But there's nothing that haunts you more than when you get beat because of things that you can handle. And I think a lot of what we're having to do right now, in addition to installing new offenses and new defenses, is really teaching these kids how to be a game. I've tried to stress with our coaches, there's times that somebody's tail needs to be chewed, but a lot of it is helping. This is an extension of the classroom. And these kids have to learn how to play the game. And that's true at any high school, not just here. But when you have young kids, they got to learn how to play the game, and they got to learn how to play the game correctly. And I think our staff does a great job of teaching that. And as I said earlier, you're not going to get taught the game better anywhere else. I mean, we're going to do a great job of that. And that's kind of been a priority, is just there's so much in addition to having to install new systems, just trying to teach these kids from the time they step foot in the building to the time they leave. How are we going to do things? I learned something when I was a little kid. My dad was on staff at Troy in 1983 with Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey was the head coach at Troy State. My dad came in as the defensive coordinator and took over as head coach when Coach Gailey left to go to Denver. I remember, and it stuck with me, walking around in the locker room, they had signs up everywhere that said, do everything the right way. And that is something that is a core value of everything I've ever taught, is do everything the right way. You don't need a lot of rules, but if you follow that guide, that's going to help. And I think kids are starting to understand what's the right way. Effort, accountability, being a good teammate, those are things that we're really stressing right now.
And then talk about these padded camps. I'm seeing it seems like the popularity of them is really rising. There's been a lot of them. Is that something that has typically been a part of your off seasons at other schools in recent years? And what do you think the benefit is that these kids are getting out of those camps?
Well, you couldn't do this in Alabama. I think
That's
if
right.
you're going to allow people to line up 11 on 11, it's good that you put shoulder pads on because I've done it the other way, and I'm not a fan when you can't do that with pads on, with shoulder pads on. I think having one a month, I think that's probably as much as you should do, but at least gives kids to get out there and see live action with pads popping. Where it's a really good evaluators is where you get kids that are new to the game. Is it kind of gives them a chance to go out there and see what it's really like without there being major consequences of having to go out in front of everybody on a Friday night, hopefully lessen their nerves. I mean, I talk to our kids and say, guys, nobody's keeping score or there's no records kept here. I'm worried about your mental and physical effort. You know, are you going to play physical? Are you going to try to do what we ask you to do? Or are you going to do those things full speed? It gives you a good dress rehearsal. I think especially with a young team like ours, I think they're pretty valuable.
Hmm. And then you guys open up against Wheeler County week 1. Do you have any scrimmages? And then who are some guys that you're just excited to see out there, just whether it's their leadership, their skills, or just what you've seen early on?
We've got 2 scrimmages. We've got one with East Lawrence on August 4th, and then we've got one at Montgomery County on August 11th. So, you know, they only did one scrim. Last year they did spring ball in one scrimmage, and I knew I didn't want to do spring ball, so I wanted to get that second scrimmage so we could have, you know, a second, you know, dress rehearsal, so to speak. Um, so those days are coming up quick, but I'm excited to see what these kids are going to do when we get a chance to line up and do it for real. We've shown flashes this summer of doing some really good things, and we've got some good talent there. From a skill position, Jonathan Roach and Jesse Washington are 2 returners that were a pretty prominent part of their offense last year. They're both extremely talented. They're both kids that I know have the talent to play at the next level. Each one of them has some offers already. Um, so they're gonna carry a bulk of the work. You know, there's some young receivers that are coming on. Walt Green is going to just be a sophomore. He's 6'3". He's getting faster all the time. He's going to really develop into a great player. Joe Taylor is the returning senior that we have up front. You know, he's 6'2", 280. He can move. Um, he's a guy that has next level potential as well. Defensively, and the biggest question probably offensively right now is we've got to figure out at quarterback. You know, they had Austin Saunders, who was a 4-year starter at quarterback the last 4 years. So anytime you got to replace a 4-year starter, that's a challenging. That's a big challenge, and we've got a couple guys, Logan McMillan and Nate Webster, that have been taking reps back there at quarterback that have both shown signs that they can handle the job. At times, we've still got a lot of development to do. Defensively, those same guys. Jesse has been one of the best linebackers around here. I've watched film, you know, on him from last year, and he is a load. He will strike you. He is everything you want in a linebacker. He's fast. He's physical. Knows the game really well. You know, shows good leadership. Tries to get everybody in the right place. Jonathan Roach is a great safety. Can cover a lot of ground on the back end. He's a good enough athlete that, you know, we can do 1 or 2 safety things with him. He's fast and athletic enough. He can cover a lot of ground as a single safety. We've got some guys up front that we're trying to develop. Again, we're very young in a lot of key places. So those are the guys that have really stood out. We'll rely very heavily on Jesse and Jonathan on both sides of the ball to provide leadership and to make plays for us as these young players are developing.
Yep, Jesse's definitely a guy. Had a great season running the ball last year and contributing defensively. Well, Coach Rhoades, thank you so much for coming on. We're going to have to catch up once the season gets started. Good luck at the 7-on-7 tomorrow, and these two scrimmages, we will certainly be watching it.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. We appreciate it.
You bet. All right, so there goes Coach Rhoades. You heard it there. They're going to be competing in Class A Division II. Last year they made it to the playoffs, and then they got matched up with Schley County in the first round. If you know, they had a really strong run to the state finals, so that was a really tough matchup, but they made it into the playoffs, and obviously they'll be building off that. They have a young team. He talked about how important it's going to be for the quarterback position, but they got some two-way players. They like the offensive and defensive lines, new staff, and two scrimmages to prepare for the season, so that will be exciting. So let's go ahead and take a quick break and thank our sponsor, the NFHS Network. All right, welcome back. So now we're going to go up to Class 2A and catch up with head coach Byron Slack and the Cook Hornets. They're coming off a really strong 8-4 season out of Region 1, 2A. They'll be in that region once again. Let's see, their 8 wins last year was the best since 2014, and they put up 400 points last season. Really high average, and I'm looking back at it, and that's probably one of the top 5 most productive offensive seasons. So we don't have Coach Slack yet. Hold on one sec. So they have a big region. It's 7 teams. They went 4-2 in it last year. Pull it up real quick. All right, so they opened the season with Pelham, not the Alabama one that Coach Rhoades was talking about, Pelham in Georgia. They won that one 55-7. Then they played Valdosta after that. Obviously, Valdosta is a 7A school, a great test for them. They ended up falling short 34-7 in that one. Turned around, had a massive win over Brooks County, a true powerhouse, the Trojans. They won that one 32-28. At the time, Brooks County was actually ranked number 2 in the state. A huge win for them. That propelled Cook into the rankings at number 6 in Class 2A. They beat Clinch County, another super talented team, the following week, 43-13, and then opened Region 1 with 3 straight wins. So at that point, that put them at 6-1. Then they ended up dropping back-to-back games to probably their toughest region opponents. That's Dodge County. That was a 47-37 loss, and then Fitzgerald, the state runner-up, and a team that's been in the finals, I think, maybe 4 of the last 5 years, something ridiculous like that, and that was a 36-14 game. So all competitive week in and week out. They won some tight games in the case of Brooks County, lost a couple, but really showed up every single week, even in the Valdosta game. I mean, that is really tough to do, square up against a 7A powerhouse like that. And then they beat Ace Charter in the first round of the playoffs 77-35. We talked about what their offense was able to do last year. That was certainly a big part of it. And then they ended up falling short to Thompson in the second round to end the season. Thompson, of course, was your eventual state champs. So those 4 losses last year: Valdosta, Dodge County, and then the 2 state finalists. So we'll see where the expectations are at this season. Okay, he says he's going to be on in 2 minutes. So Fitzgerald took the region 6-0. They swept their way through it, had a perfect regular season, and then Cook earned the number 2 seed for that home field advantage, hosted Ace Charter, had the big win. Let's look at some of their playmakers contributing. It looks like they will be returning their starter at the quarterback position. They had multiple guys throwing passes last year, but it looks like it was Drew Folsom, the junior. He ended up, I think, averaging about 140 yards per game through the air. In terms of the rushing attack, they've got Jatorian Kennedy returning. He'll be a senior. And then you got Kayshawn McKever. He'll be a senior as well. And then Folsom, the quarterback, also was able to make his way into the end zone. In terms of the passing game, same sort of deal. Nyshawn Wallace, looks like he'll be the returning leading receiver. He's going to be a senior as well. So they have a lot coming back in the skill positions. Part of that offense that put up 400 points in those 12 games. And then defensively, let's look. They returned, it looks like their 3 leading tacklers from last season. That's Aiden Lester, Ja'Cory Jones, and Jamarcus McCray. They were all about 6 tackles per game. And then let's see, Terry and Jones had a big sophomore season, 7 tackles for loss, 36 tackles. He'll be a junior this upcoming season. And then in terms of interceptions, Jamarcus McCray had 2 last year, and then freshman Mustafa Tippin. So in terms of the eye test, looking at the contributors last season, a lot of them were underclassmen. We'll try to get the numbers from Coach Slack on how many returning starters they have, and then get his take on just how the offseason's been going and what they're going to do in these final 5 weeks. Still don't have them on. All right, let's see if see what they've been up to this offseason. All right, I'm looking to see who they scrimmaged. Okay, it looks like they were at Mitchell County in late June for a joint practice. That was not a padded one, just a... But yeah, it looks like they were just in shorts and helmets, but they were in that joint practice. Yeah, Cook was in the Corky 707 too, correct? Yeah, they were for sure. So yeah, they were in that. I'm looking at them right now. That was against GAC, so I forgot what day that was. Drew Folsom, though, one of the receivers. Sorry, the quarterback we were talking about, 6'4", 170 pounds, 4.0 GPA. He was making plays in that 7-on-7. Let's see. They also played, it looks like, the Mercer 7-on-7. Let's go back to spring real quick. They had Memphis stopping by. University of the Cumberlands came by. Albany State, so a lot of college coaches. Tennessee Tech. All right, we got Coach Slack. How's it going, Coach?
Good. How's it going?
Doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. So I was just trying to look at kind of how busy this offseason has been for you. I saw you guys were at the Mercer 7-on-7, the Corky Kell 7-on-7 at Tech. You guys had some joint practices, but what was the spring like for you guys?
Spring went well. We had a lot of kids.
Oh, we lost him real quick.
And spring went well, Coach. Let me tell this child something real quick. Am I on live? Coach, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, we're live right now.
Okay. Spring went well. We had a couple kids running track, at our size. Um, that was a chore, but it allowed for some kids that we were hoping to improve on, get some good quality reps. So it went well for the most part. I think we got a nice collection of skill players that are coming back. As a matter of fact, we got every skill player that we had is coming back. Led by our quarterback and our tailback, Drew Folsom and Keyshawn McKeever. We lost one of a kid last year early on that came back, and Nyshawn Wallace. So it was really productive because a couple of those guys, Nyshawn and you guys, were in track on and off. So it allowed us to get some young kids in there and get some rep and kind of build some depth.
Oh, certainly. That was one of the things that stood out when I was just kind of looking at the team. You guys put up 400 points last year, had a really productive season offensively. Looks like you were able to do a lot of things. You guys had balance. You played a really tough schedule. What do you think just the success last season, the familiarity, is going to do to kind of help the offense establish themselves early on this season?
Well, like I said, I think I hope that the collection of skill players we have is definitely going to be a strong point for us. And Coach Dean, our offensive coordinator, has done a great job at keeping that balance and using what we have. And I think what that's going to allow us to do is the vice versa. The defense gets out there and gets stopped, and the offense able to sustain drives and whatnot. And that's always a good thing. So we're just going to try to continue to improve in that aspect, and as far as being balanced and doing a good job of getting the guys that we think can do stuff with the ball, getting them the ball. So we kind of splintered a little bit last year. We got going, and then, like I said, took a big hit there in that third or fourth game, losing Nyshawn Wallace with a broken hand, and he was out until, I believe, the second last game of the season, the Fitzgerald game. So he missed, 6 games in there, and right in the middle of the season. That kind of kept us kind of having to try to, do some placing here and placing there. So with having a full unit back, we're really excited about that group offensively.
And then what did you see in the spring scrimmage against Doherty? I mean, they are a really outstanding, tough football team, but looks like it was a pretty competitive game. And just what stood out to you?
Well, one thing that stood out to me defensively, we had a couple of young guys getting there that played extremely well, and that was very, very reassuring. We have a young linebacker in Braylon Bennett, young freshman coming in that we're real excited about. He's got all the tools. He's got the size, he's got the height, he's got the brain, the knowledge of a ball player that you want that plays inside. So we're really excited about him. Jakari Johnson was a wide receiver for us, a young wide receiver, got out there because we had a couple guys that track. The state track meet was the following day. Well, actually started that day. So we had a couple guys that were there, Nyshawn Wallace most notably, and a couple other guys. So we had Jakari Johnson step in, who was a young kid, an upcoming sophomore who another year, pound for pound, he might be the biggest, fastest, strongest kid in our program. 6'1", corner / wide receiver at 6'1", 172, 73, 400-pound squatter. A hair away from being a 230, 45-pound power clean guy. So we're real excited about him. And in that spring game, he was able to catch a few balls and do some things against, like you said, a very tough Doherty team. They got 2 kids down there, that quarterback and another young quarterback that I'm just telling you, I don't need to have to pump them up. If you watch them play one time this year and see that freshman they bought in and the kid that's going to take the bulk of the snaps, when they get in there together, let's just say I'm glad I ain't got to face them in a real situation, because that combination when they're both in the game is absolutely terrifying for a defensive coach. And we saw a glimpse of it there at the end of our game when we were going with them. So they're always a great unit. They do a great job over there. We love to scrimmage them, and that's our second year in a row going against them. So they definitely are a great test for us.
Yeah, and speaking about tests, your schedule is pretty outstanding. Obviously, a region with teams like Fitzgerald, Dodge County, um, Worth County, Berry, and Sumter. It's a big region, but you guys really challenge yourself in that non-region stretch. Pelham, Valdosta, Brooks County, Clinch County. So is it going to stay the same with those four teams this year? And just how key is that going to be to just test you guys before region play?
Absolutely, I believe in that. I just when I got the job here at Cook, uh, looking at their schedule, not saying anything about the schedule beforehand, but uh, when you're at a region, I just believe in that. I want to see. I don't want to go into region play one. So those clinch, all those great programs that we got on that schedule, they allow us to see. Uh, playing a Valdosta, they're a 7A program. We're a 2A program. But we went down there. They're actually going to come to our place this year. I thought it was a very necessary evil. I have great respect for that program. Everybody's still chasing them in the state of Georgia, and to have our kids be able to go down there and experience that atmosphere, it was good for them, good for our program, and having them come up to us is still going to be good. And I just believe that I think you get more out of it in the long run by challenging yourself. And again, that's no slight on anybody else, but if I got an opportunity, anytime I have an opportunity where I can name who I get to play, region is set. You got to play so and so. You got to play this. You got to play them. Anytime I have an opportunity where I get to say so to who we're going to play, I want to see. So I'm going to schedule somebody that's going to make me see.
Oh yeah, no, that's so exciting. I'm looking back. That was the first time Cook had played Valdosta since 1953. So pretty much 70 years. You guys put them on the schedule. What'd you just notice in that game? I think it was 34-7. But I mean, looking at it, you guys definitely went out there and probably had a lot to take away from it. Just heading into that kind of second rematch this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great game. They do a great job down there, special teams wise, and we ended up putting 3 punts on the ground in that game. And you're not going to beat anybody, let alone the winningest program in the history of this country, when you put 3 punts on the ground. And that's what we did. But what we were able to do is just endure a little bit early on. It was a good game going. Our kids played really excited. They played excited, and the atmosphere got them going. But I don't think they played out of control, and that was really good to see. That atmosphere down there. I've been fortunate enough to play in that stadium and play against that program for a lot of years. You can get down there and get caught up in it, and you want the emotion, you want the kids flying around and doing stuff. But I've also been in that place where I've seen it get the best of you. And despite us literally making just some crucial mistakes that didn't allow us to be competitive towards the end of that game, I thought our kids went out there and played. And, they say, oh, they played hard. That's all should be a given, I hope. But to see them play at a high emotional level, but still stay within the realms of what we were trying to get them to do was reassuring, and we took that away from that game.
Absolutely. And then what have you seen from Drew, your quarterback, this offseason, and what kind of year do you think he's poised to have?
Well, I tell you what, when I got here, and I watched all the film and whatnot, and he walked into the office the first time I met him. I said, "Good Lord, man!" I mean, he was, I think, 150, maybe 150 pounds. And then we got in that weight room, and I've watched him over the past year and 5 to 6 months since I've been here, literally force himself into being a bigger, stronger athlete. He is 175 pounds now, and he is on our top 10 strongest board in our program. He had a little injury early on in his career before I got here. His arm has gotten just so much stronger. Because he's gotten stronger. He can make any throw that you need him to make. And with his size and his quick decision-making ability, we are, needless to say, expecting some big things out of him. I think he's going to surprise some people. A lot of people came through this spring, and I thank them colleges for coming through. But when you look at him, and then you happen to be here where we're working out, and I say that's him, and they coach, that kid's legitimately 6'4". I go, yeah, I told you that. And then when you watch him, especially in the spring, you see that ball come out. And that was the first thing I said when we started throwing around there early. I was just watching him, and I told our coach, I said, man, that ball's coming out a little different. And I just attributed to him to being just a bigger, stronger kid. He's got his legs up underneath him. And again, I think he's number 7 on our top 10 strongest. He's, for his size, to be able to clean 230 pounds, I think what it was. And, benching 215, 16, 7, 215, I think, something like that. It's just a testament to his work ethic and his want to be a better football player this year. We're certainly going to welcome that. And I know that he'll be up for the task.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think the weight room definitely builds confidence just from an individual perspective. And then sometimes when you hit that growth spurt early, you're 6'4", it does take time to fill out the frame. So I think that's exciting. And I think just having that work in the weight room pay off, I think he'll definitely be more confident out there just with his physicality. But you talked about the defense. Some of the guys were running tracks, but who are you excited to see out there really just set the tone for you guys and be that leader?
Well, we got a couple guys. We moved some guys around. Aiden Lester is a guy that's coming back for us at our jack linebacker, our weak side inside linebacker, and he's just the pace guy. He sets the pace in practice, sets the pace every day, and going after, and just the way he practices in the weight room, and that's where it starts for me. And I tell our kids all the time, like you said, you get confidence in that weight room. And I've said it before, I've said it online. You can find out a lot about yourself on that 5th set squat, 5 reps of 90 and 95% of your max. You find out a whole lot about yourself, and I believe in that. And he's a guy that we're real excited about. We moved the kid Rashad Tippins. He's another kid. We moved him to free safety. He's a 6'2.5", 6'3" free safety that I think is going to make a lot of people take notice of him. He has committed himself in the weight room, and we're real excited about him. Again, we got Nyshawn Wallace back. Again, he missed most of the year last year with that broken hand. And when we came back, we kind of limited his reps defensively and got him on offense. But he's a guy that we're super excited about. We got him at safety, as a matter of fact. His ball skills are just so advanced that I like him coming off the hash, and them people trying to throw them whole routes. And he's not the biggest guy, but I mean he's arguably one of the best athletes around here. Can jump, and he's got super ball skills. So we're excited about him. And we're bringing Ja'Cory Jones back up front. He was nose guard defensive end for us and ended up being a special teams phenom. I think he finished the year with 4 block kicks, and playing defensive end, nose guard, keeping him on punt block. So real excited about him. 1 or 2 young guys. I mentioned Ja'Cory Johnson, M.J. Tippins, Mustafa Tippins Jr. He was a baseball player, so he was in and out during spring, but he's going to be, playing some corner for us. Him and Sean Thompson are guys that we're really excited about. So we got a little collection of skill guys that I think we can roll some guys in, stay fresh. Some guys play offense, guy goes and go over on defense, get them a break. That's going to allow us to compete and not lose a whole lot when we roll guys in and out.
And you're mentioning Rashad Tippins. Is he moving to the free safety spot? I mean, obviously he played last year too. I think he also plays basketball, but what has changed about his role and what he's going to mean to the defense this year?
Well, we had him at defensive end last year.
Okay.
And due to personnel and whatnot, when I got here, I looked at him. I wanted to stand him up when I got here, but to be brutally honest, he was just the next biggest guy we had that I thought could handle it up playing up front. He is a great basketball player. And so as soon as the season was over, and even towards the end of the year, I just had him stand up and I told him to start working ball drills and whatnot. And he has taken to it full go. I think he wanted to be back there in the first place, but he's a good guy, good kid. He played where we asked him to play last year. But he's going to be our strong safety. And he is another one that I've watched mature, not just mentally, but physically. We're talking about a guy who's 6'2", 10 pounds, close to 300 bench press guy. Really focused on dropping his hips and getting down there. Has gotten way better and way more flexible just through want to. So we're going to have him back there on the hash. And I think, 2 or 3 games in, before too long, he's going to garner a lot of attention back there because, as it was told to me many years ago, I think I've never coached anybody into being 6'3". I've tried, but I ain't ever been successful to do it. So he's got some intangibles that he's just going to bring once he walks out the door that are going to make people look. And then when he starts playing, I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised. We're going to play him at X receiver as well.
That's awesome.
I mean, I've never heard a ball hit his hands when we throw it to him. He has just unbelievable hands. So he's a kid that I think, hopefully if he does what he's supposed to, 2, 3, 4 games in, people are going to be wondering, hey man, who is this kid? All right.
Yeah. So Rashad, I think he goes by Shad. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Shad Tippin's a guy that can get a double-double on the court. He played defensive end, and now he's in that safety position, benching 300. I would not want to go over the middle with him there. That's for sure. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
So just in these next 5 weeks, though, what's the rest of the offseason look like for you guys? And then do you guys have another scrimmage planned before things kick off?
Yeah, we're going to go over to Camden County next week and participating in OTA. That's going to kind of do it for us. And then we'll hit that next week. We're hitting acclimation, and then we're going to start. We'll be Thomas County Central here on August 4th. So we're kind of fine tuning some things, doing our conditioning, getting ready. We'll go over there. We've got a couple teams over there. Always like to go over there. We went over there last year with Camden and work with them. Obviously, worked for Coach Heron for 9 years while I was at Camden, I think 9 or 10, and then he retired, and I finished out over there and for another 3 years and left Camden, but always get an opportunity to go over there and work with them. So we'll finish out with them and then come in, close out the summer really, then start acclimation and then get ready to again play another great team. People asked, I had Coach Rogers at Thomas County Central. I want to see. There's a third or fourth round team, I believe, in their classification last year. And I've heard several people, and I've talked to him, and I know they got a very good team coming back, and be a great test for us. We went over there to their place last year, and they flat out got after us, in which I'd expect nothing else from them. And again, we got to see early on when that happened. We took a lot away from that game as well. You go out there, and whether you're prepared or not, you got to go. And we were out there. We thought we were prepared, and they gave us a couple things. And they have some great athletes over there. And I'm not sure what it ended up. It might have been 40-something, 50-something to 16, 17 or something like that. But again, I like to win and learn lessons, but you do occasionally learn a few even when you lose. And I think what we took away from that game is you got to be freaking ready to play. You got to be ready to play.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thomas County Central last year, I think they went from 4A up to 6A. And so people were like, okay, we'll wait and see how this turns out. And then they just went out there and beat everyone. They were just rolling, had a really special year. Coach Rogers definitely has his guys ready with the Jackets. But Coach Slack, thanks so much for coming on, telling us about your team. I'm excited to see what you guys do this year in Region 2. It's going to be a great non-region schedule, obviously some big-time matchups, and just a really strong slate. So thanks so much for coming on.
Great. Thank you guys for having me, and go Hornets.
Go Hornets. All right. So there goes Coach Slack. The big takeaway with that one, I think, is just the way they challenge themselves. So that Valdosta game is going to be huge. They've met 5 times in their history. Last year was the first time since '53. They lost 34-7. He said they, I think, muffed 3 punts in the game. So he didn't say the nerves necessarily got to his team. They played focused, but they didn't have things go their way in the special teams department. I think that will be an interesting matchup. And then, of course, last year they dropped the Valdosta game, 7A school. Obviously weren't going to be favored in that one, but then they turned around and beat Brooks County and then entered the Class 2A rankings, where they remained the rest of the season, earned the number 2 seed out of the region behind Fitzgerald. So it'll be an outstanding season for Cook for sure. But I guess the interviews went pretty long today, so we're about to wrap it up. But we will be back tomorrow with Keeping It Real with Najee Wilkins, and then we'll be back on Friday for another episode. I'm going to be joined by Terrence Edwards to talk about the Real Dogs and the upcoming alumni basketball. Also, don't forget the Gwinnett Sports Hall of Fame is coming up on July 21st. You can go to the Gwinnett County Foundation website, purchase your tickets. It's going to be star-studded, great guest, a silent auction, and it's just 6 inductees, so it will be a brief ceremony, and it's a good way to support that foundation. It is their only fundraiser, and it goes to Georgia's largest school district and helping with scholarships and opportunities. But that's it for now. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Thanks to our guest, and we'll see you tomorrow.